So the day has finally come. I'm happy to be sitting here with my good friend Dave Terry, the man I like to refer to as Western Canada's finest, coming in from Vancouver. Dave and I have known each other for close to 10 years now, and many rounds of golf, a trip to Geneva, and an Eagles game later. Here we are. So very happy to have you here. And it's time to talk about some watches, eh?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, it's a little golf in there in Arizona too, George. That was fun.
It was great times. Yeah, played in a bunch of different states now.
Absolutely.
So when we first started, I remember you went big like right out of the gate. I think I remember one of the first watches I sold you was a 5980 AR, 1AR, two-tone, and a steel Royal Oak. I think you had a good year, and at the end of the year, you bought 3 pieces, you know, sort of to treat yourself.
I checked back, and the first watch I bought from you was a Panerai.
Really?
Yeah.
Which piece?
It was 423.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you've now gone through Panerais, Omegas, APs, Journes, Pateks, RMs, and...
Only one Omega.
Only one Omega.
Yeah, only one Omega, yeah.
You know, you're somebody who I definitely would refer to as a high-level, highly cultivated collector, where anything that makes the Dave Terry collection now has to be a quality watch or special in some regard. And when looking at your collection now, you have some all-time classics from the two kings, as I like to refer to them, Patek and Rolex. So what makes the watches that you have from those two brands as good as advertised? And, you know, walk me through why you have the watches that you do from those two.
Well, I have more stainless steel Rolexes, and I really like the stainless steel Rolex because I think they're great staples. That watch, I actually brought that Batman with me because that's probably of all my stainless steel Rolexes, that's got the most, I guess, sentimental value to me. I bought that in 2015, and I was in Montreal at the time, and that watch had come out probably about 7 or 8 months prior to when I was in Montreal. And I had seen that watch when my wife and I were in Italy. It was first launched. It came out in Europe before it came out in North America, and I really liked the watch. And I had the just a black GMT, and I really liked the GMT function because that was actually the first Rolex I ever bought was a GMT. And I had always dreamed about buying a Submariner, but when I actually came close to the opportunity to be able to buy one, I went in and I was talking to the Rolex dealer about them, and the GMT was $100 less expensive, and it had a function in there, a complication. And so I thought that there was better value to it. I kind of like the polished center links on it. And so I ended up getting the GMT. But I really liked that black and blue when it first came out. And I was in Montreal, and I came across a retailer that had 2 of them, believe it or not, at that point in time. They were easy to get. I got a healthy discount on it, and I know what those are trading for today.
Not getting any discounts on them today, that's
no,
for sure.
No. That watch actually, in the US dollars, that cost me about $6,300. And
right.
so there's a little bit of equity
Trading for
built
about,
up in that one.
2x that now
But
at least, right?
But you can see I wear it all the time. I mean, it's been a great watch.
Well, I certainly like it myself as my latest pickup.
Yeah.
And then you have your, precious metal Daytonas. You were saying, I know your wife was telling me this is her favorite watch, and you were telling me yesterday, out of everything you have, this is the watch you wear the most.
I definitely do. I probably wear that watch at least 10 days a month. You know, I really like the watch. I'm a chronograph guy. I love chronographs, and
big car guy.
The Daytona is, an iconic piece, and that is, as far as Daytonas go, that's the king of the hill, arguably, in the modern Rolex world. I really like the watch. It's heavy. You know what's on your wrist. It looks good. It's I think a cool piece.
Yeah, definitely versatile too. Then this guy, did you get this guy before the John Mayer hype on this piece?
I beat John Mayer on that one. To be honest with you, I bought that watch. Put it this way, I put the money down and I bought that watch more than a year ago. And it took a little while to get, but I got that watch in 2018, long before the John Mayer hype. So
there you go.
I do like the watch. It's flashy, but it's green. It's an anniversary watch. It's something that's special. You can see that as soon as it kind of got on a lot of people's radar, the demand surge that's taken place for that piece, it is a cool watch.
The demand for the brand as a whole is just insane. Like nothing, it's hard to even fathom. I mean, live it every day, and it's just insane. But it makes sense, right? I mean, they're an unbelievably good value, a good investment now, which helps. But they're tanks. They're reliable. They're versatile. They're beach to tux watches, as Danny likes to refer them to, and that seems to be, the trend in the industry now. And then you have some.
Well, the finish off the Rolex, like I brought that Milgauss because I've got other watches.
That's right. Yeah, we didn't even talk about this one.
And that is just a weird, quirky watch. It's got a lightning bolt for a second hand. It's just an unusual, cool piece. And not everything has to be the most popular piece. If you're going to start collecting watches and you're going to buy what you like, what you're going to wear, because if you don't really like it, you're not really going to wear it, and there's no fun in that.
Right. Too many people, I think.
Too many guys think they're buying investments. I can tell you a lot better investments than watches, but they're fun.
Right.
And if you're not going to have fun with it and you're not going to enjoy wearing it, I don't think you should own it.
But some people, I think, when they go to the forums, like they like a watch and then they let other people tell them they shouldn't have it for whatever reason, and then they buy something else, and then they realize, like, I want to have the watch I wanted originally, and I listen to other people because they're telling me, making the decision for me, like, to each his own, right?
Stay away from the forums.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of guys on there that,
you can get easily misguided and a lot of misinformation on those forums. So, so you got some big boy Pateks from the Big Dog brand. Wow, where to start?
Again, I love chronographs, and this is a really cool piece. When they were making the first time I reached out to Goldberg to try to buy a watch, I was trying to buy a 5170J when they had first come out. And I ended up not ever owning that watch or buying that watch, but I really liked it. I thought it was very classic, very traditional, but yet it had the chronograph complication in there, and I thought it was a cool piece. Then they came out with the white gold iteration of it with the silver dial.
With the Breguet Arabic numerals, yep.
Yeah, and they also had the pulsations going around it, and I thought that was a cool piece. But you look at traditionally what Patek has done, and I like white metals a lot more than gold, so to speak. I'm more of a white metal guy, and knowing that at some point in time they had to come out with a platinum version of this. If you recall, it was about 2 years before this watch came out that I started harassing you and saying, when they come out with that watch, I want it.
I remember.
And who knew that they were going to come out with that really cool blue dial on it and put diamonds on the dial. I wasn't sure how I would like the diamonds on the dial, but that's the direction they decided to go. But I'm very pleased to have this watch. I think it's a cool watch.
I remember when you let me put that on in the Arizona sun.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular when you get out in the sun.
That was
it's
awesome.
very cool.
This watch, I think, is incredibly special, and I think that one day it's going to be worth a lot more than it is now. So I look at the 5070, the predecessor, and it's mind-boggling to me. I see that trading, like 170, right? And this is, half that, 85-ish, right? And it's like, why though? Like, I mean, I get the whole like La Mania movement
but this
and
is
a bigger
in-house,
watch,
first in-house,
right? So, but I personally prefer the aesthetics of this, and also would fit my wrist better. Some bigger guys would say the 5070, obviously, but for it to be worth half than what the 5070P is, it doesn't make sense to me. I think you're going to see that level out over the course of time. This piece, the 5270P, which is the new version of the 5970P, once again, La Mania to in-house. This one is holding up really well in terms of value. It's just absolutely killer. Like, I absolutely love this watch with the salmon dial.
I do too.
What's your take on this?
Well, I think they made a lot of white gold iterations of this watch, and I think that kind of hurt this particular model as far as some of the hardcore collectors go. But I think it does wear very good. It's a very comfortable watch to wear. I mean, it's a grand complication, so it's got everything going on there. I think that when they put this together, the dial, the color, the numbers on there, the hands, it's a really good combination. And for them to put this on a salmon dial, I was kind of really shocked that this is what they were going to do. I don't think they call this salmon, they call it some other color, but everybody calls it a salmon dial. But it's a really cool piece. And again, I think that is something I enjoy wearing. And if I'm not going to enjoy wearing a piece like this, there's no point having it. But I
Right.
do enjoy wearing this watch. You know, I don't have a lot of brown straps, as you can see here. I mean, I've got a couple other watches, but you know, you're grabbing your brown shoes, brown belt. This is just
There
a
you
great
go.
watch
Yeah,
to
exactly.
grab to go with it, and it just it's a cool piece.
And rumor has it it's going to be discontinued soon.
Yeah,
So
and this
that's
has
what-
been discontinued,
Right.
and that was a relatively short run on that watch as well.
And
So,
then they're now replacing this with the 5172, which is the same movement but different case on a really cool strap. And you know, speculation has it that they're going to do, you know, a new in-house perpetual chrono as well with you know, a new case similar to like what they did with the 5172. So in addition to your platinum in-house chrono pieces here, of course you have some steel Pateks as well. So you were onto the 5711 early. There's a lot of people now, you know, became so coveted and, you know, went insane in terms of value. So people are, you know, felt like they missed out. It's like, oh, I have to have one because it's like the watch now. But I will give you credit. You had it before, you know, it was even, I mean, it was out in showcases when you bought it. I know you've had a white dial before too. What's your take on this? What's happened to the watch? You know.
well, I think it's, you know, the whole mechanical Swiss watch industry is kind of taken off, and I think a lot of people see that as an entry point into the brand. And unfortunately for them, I think they're not understanding the reality of that particular watch. That watch is a recognition piece for having acquired and purchased other pieces from the brand.
Right.
And it's not by any stretch of the imagination an entry-level watch. And I think that, you know, I think probably some of your viewers will say, what is he talking about? But really that watch is in existence to, you know, to go to the Patek collector that has bought, you know, some of the grand complications and the complicated watches and say, listen, we also want to have a watch in place for you for when you're looking for that steel casual sports watch. We want to keep you in the brand. We want to keep something that you would enjoy wearing, and to recognize, you know, that you've been a great customer. Here's a, you know, lower price point watch for you to get into. And I think that that's where that watch is. I think the blue dial is, you know, kind of the one to have, but I think that if I was speculating long term on these things, who would, you know, what people would really want to collect, the white dial was, they make about 50% of those, and they didn't start making that till 2012. And I think the white dial is going to be just that much more rare and that more special, I think, you know, looking down the road 20 years. But I don't think there is a bad, you know, Nautilus really to own. And I think, that, you know, I brought one Nautilus to kind of show here, but I think if you're going to pick one Nautilus, that's not a bad one to bring.
That's for sure. But it is counterintuitive now with Patek that, you know, even the Aquanaut now, the 5167, like it's so crazy in demand, and, you know, the demand so far exceeds the supply. You would think that, you know, your first entry-level Patek, you get a steel Nautilus or a steel Aquanaut, right? I mean, it's the lowest price point that the brand offers, but those are the watches that are the most in demand. So it's sort of like you have to go to the big boy watches or, you know, a precious metal annual calendar or a Calatrava to then, you know, make your way into, you know, establish a relationship with a dealer to then get into the watches that are, you know, premium watches, as I would like to say, because they trade, you know, significantly over the retail price. So, and then you have the new, one of the most in-demand pieces of the year in the 5212. Has to be one of the first delivered worldwide, I would say. You know, this is an awesome piece. I'll let you do the talking on it, but I know a remodel of a piece from the 50s, the 2512, I believe it is, and, you know, it's really, really cool. It's different, it's funky for Patek, and the fact that it's steel too, but even down to the font being looking a little bit imperfect, and Thierry Stern you know, purposely did that because when he was given a sketch of the dial, he liked the way it looked, and so he said, we're going to do that on the regular watch. I think that's very cool. It gives it some great character.
Yeah, I mean, I don't own another Calatrava, and so this is kind of a cool Calatrava to own. When it was first introduced, you know, like everybody else, I'm sitting by my computer waiting for the Basel pieces to kind of be announced. And as soon as I saw this, I said, it's steel, it's Calatrava, it's a new complication for them. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, they were going to introduce this watch in steel. You know, I know when they come out with a new movement, they're not just going to run that for 2 years or something like that. But what are they going to do with this? They're going to go from steel to a precious metal. I really couldn't figure out what the thought process was on this for a long term. And you know, you were over there in Geneva at that point in time, and I was like, okay, George, this is the watch I have to get. And they're saying, well, there's people that are bashing it and other people think it's ridiculous. And why do you need that complication? George, I have to acquire this piece. And I started harassing you basically right away. And, we were able to find a way to make that come together. So I was able to acquire that. And I'm really, grateful that I could get it because, it's a very cool piece. And it's just a fun little watch to wear.
It most certainly is. Yeah, usually, when Patek comes out with a watch, I think of like the 5960, right? So they went platinum and went through a bunch of different dial iterations of that. Then they did the rose gold, and then they ended up doing the steel version with in both the white dial and the black dial. Black dial, super rare, awesome watch by the way.
Yeah.
And now on the 5212, they come out with it in steel right away, which is interesting because they've always said they want to keep production of steel watches at 20% of their annual production. And but they make a different steel watch, new movement, new really everything in a steel case. So it'll be very interesting to see where they go with this model, from here, whether they make it.
I'm curious too.
Yeah.
Do they put it in? What do they put in next?
Right.
J, R, G, I don't know. You can't go to G because you just made steel.
Right.
So
right.
Where do you go?
Yeah. It'll be, trust in Patek. That's what I've always learned. Never doubt them.
Yeah.
So one thing I think I can take credit for, you told me, but I think I helped get you on the Journe train,
without question.
Many years back, and you're still on it today, which makes me happy. And I think FP is the best living watchmaker in the world. And, it's interesting, the guy makes less than 1,000 mechanical watches a year, probably made 15,000 approximately ever. And given his low production, his line is remarkably diverse, makes all sorts of different pieces, different materials, different movements. And you have some really cool ones here today, which I'm happy you brought.
I wanted to mix it up, so I wanted to bring some stuff that's kind of new, something old, that kind of thing, right? And just kind of mix it up because with Journe, if I'm talking to them, the interesting thing is you can call them up and you can give them the serial number on the watch, and they can tell you when it was serviced and give you the whole history on it. And they're more than happy to share that with you. Mechanical watches last year made 558 watches.
Crazy. That's insane.
And then they make the Elegante, which is made in a different part of the factory, and the Grand Sonnerie, which is again made in a different part of the factory. But for the most part, 558 mechanical watches they made, and it doesn't take very long before you can, have all those out there. So the first watch that I put in that I wanted to bring in was this little guy here. So this is a 38 millimeter Octa watch, and all the Octas, they came up with a name for them because Octa 8, the infinity symbol is an 8, and FP, was using that symbol and saying that these were perpetual watches. Now, 200 years ago when they started making automatic watches, they used the term perpetual, not because of perpetual calendar like we do today, but perpetual because they would continue to run. This is a brass movement in this particular watch, and so it's one of the original watches that or movements that he was making back in the day. This watch would have been made between 2001 and 2003. There was 199 of this particular model made, and then for some reason there was one that was made in 2005. So there's a total of 200 of these in the world.
Special request for VIP.
Probably. I don't know, but I think this is really cool. And the one thing about FP Journe is their straps. This particular strap, I was lucky to acquire it. It's a nice strap, but it's actually got gold. That metal that is stitched in here.
It fits the watch perfectly. Makes it look great.
It looks really great. This particular watch has recently been serviced. It's very sharp. It was owned by a collector prior to me that looked after it extremely well, and the dial is perfect on it.
It says something about the aesthetic of Journe, so you can put so many different straps on his watches. Pretty much every one. It's crazy.
But he always goes like this has got 120-hour power reserve on it. Okay. But in this particular, all the Octas, they have 4 gears rather than 5, so they have 20% less gears in them. So friction is the enemy of the watchmaker, so this can run super efficient. And even though it's 120-hour power reserve, this is basically good for 7 days, but he just didn't want to put that much on the dial, so he just put 120 hours on the dial. So it will run up to 7 days accurately, very accurately anyways. So it's really cool the way that these are made. I mean, he is the Breguet of his day. He's the best watchmaker in the world today. Breguet of his day,
I like that.
So he's a very cool watchmaker.
Yeah, the brass movement Journe pieces have definitely become very coveted of late. And a watch you have here that was made with a brass movement and then transitioned into a gold movement, which is what FP does now with all of his precious metal watches. They all come with a fully gold movement, which is pretty remarkable. This piece, you were telling me this morning, 18 of them ever made.
18 ever made. So that is a 38 millimeter chronograph. He might be the best chronograph maker in the world. Rose gold case, red dial with a rose gold movement.
Amazing. Yeah, now, I mean, since he's done this watch, the first FP Journe chrono, he's now done the Centograph, which is an all-time classic, 100th of a second chrono, and then done the only watch mono pusher that brought 1.2 million, and now today doing the mono pusher chronograph split as well. So I think that this will end up being it already is a special piece, and it's, we were saying yesterday, it's one of the smoothest chronographs to activate. It's almost like you don't even feel it engaging when you hit the pushers. I think this is a special one even within the brand.
It is, and I think more and more collectors of the brand are seeking these out. These are becoming very sought after and coveted. That's a good piece to have, for
Without
sure.
a doubt.
Yeah.
And then you have the new sports watch. So this is like a love or hate watch, I think. You have
without
some
question.
people saying like the case is too big for the bracelet, yellow, like, it looks like throw up. And then you have some guys who are like, that watch is awesome.
So again, I bought that watch, believe it or not, to wear on vacation, and because I was selling some watches, and I bought that watch to wear to Hawaii, and it was a cool watch to wear over there. They're super lightweight, super comfortable. The bracelet on those, they breathe really well, so you don't get hot, and I think it's a good size. I think it's a cool piece. That watch started shipping in 2018, and there's been 33 of those that were delivered in 18. I don't know how many have been delivered in 19, but to FP Journe's, he doesn't go back and start remaking watches. So once he finishes something, he's done, he moves on, and it's finished. It's part of his history. How that watch will be perceived, I don't know, but I think it's kind of a fun watch. So it's titanium.
A lot of the group brands, are like, how can we sell more watches and make more money? Because that's our number one priority. So I had that Octa Perpetual that we made in titanium and rose. Like, we should come out with a platinum blue dial version of that. Sell 99 more pieces. FP's like, no, it was a limited edition. Like, I'm only making 99 pieces, and I respect that. They always say that money isn't their first priority, and I actually believe that's the case. A lot of people might. It sounds good, but for him, I do think that he cares more about the brand equity and long-term brand value of FP Journe than the bottom line. So that's pretty cool to see. This piece, I think, the Resonance is a forever all-time classic watch. They had the original Resonance that was made with the brass movement, and the Resonance 2, which had the two-time display, the symmetric dial similar to this, and then there was the Resonance 3, which is maybe, I would say, it's definitely one of the softer FP Journe watches. Some people refer to it as the ugly duckling because it has like the parking meter over here. And mechanically, it's very cool because it has, a 24-hour time display on this side, and then the traditional 12-hour time display on the right side. So for the final iteration of it, the 20th anniversary Resonance piece they're doing for just this year, the 24-hour time display, but in a symmetric dial layout like the original Resonance, and I think it's absolutely killer.
I do too. I think it's a watch that, if you understand FP Journe and where he's going, with what he's trying to create and how he's trying to do things, it's a really cool piece. And I think of all the Resonances out there, there's it's a piece that there's a fair number out there, but you take a look at like the Ruthenium, 99 pieces made. This one here, I don't think they'll get to 100. They might get to 100, but this will be a great watch long term to hold. I know the people that know Journe take a look at this and go, but it's a great watch. And again, 2 movements in the back, both rose gold. It's 1 meter long mainspring, wound 13 and a half times each one. It's a cool movements that they have back in there. So that's a cool watch.
It most certainly is. Yeah, here the rumor is he's going to have a Resonance Remontoire coming out next year. So it'll be significantly more expensive. I'm interested to see that piece. Really interested to see what he does moving forward. I mean, he's building on a crazy legacy at this point. This watch you're not going to see because it's not a commercial watch, and another kudos to FP for making a watch that people don't even know about in a different metal, one end gold, right? And the movement is even specific just for this watch. And tell us how you get this one, Dave.
Well, first of all, you got to understand, FP, when he makes his cases, there's platinum, there's rose gold, and that's what his cases are made out of. You'll get the odd sports watch that's made out of titanium or aluminum, but all of his watches are, are rose gold or platinum cases. And he's unlike a lot of other manufacturers in that the pricing between the gold and the platinum is very, very similar. This watch here is a watch that is made for members of the FP Journe Collector Society. And it is made out of a special gold. It's one end gold. And that one end gold is kind of a milky, yellowy white. And in some light, it looks white, and others, it looks like it's got a little bit of a rose or a yellow tinge to it. So it's kind of a cool watch from that perspective, just from the case material itself. It's a chronometre Sauvin, and it has a moon phase on it. And the story behind the moon phase was there was a couple of collectors on a roof of a hotel in New York City, very, very late at night. They'd been imbibing for a little bit, and they called him up and said, "We're the first collectors of your brand, we're of New York." And he says, "I'll make you guys a watch." And so he made this watch, and it's got a blue guilloche dial on it. I don't know if you can see that on there, but it's a cool piece. And in order to be a member of the FP Journe Collector Society, you have to own 3 watches. You have to be invited by a couple of members who will vouch for you. And then you have to apply. And then once you're a member, you can apply to get this piece. And FP has to approve every application in order to get one of these watches. So it's a cool watch. They put your name, they stamp it right in the back for you. So it's personalized to you. They will deliver it to you on whatever strap you want. This is a mustard strap that doesn't have a lot of patina on it yet, but it does patina very nicely as it ages. So it's a different watch. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, the 5 Journes that you brought are all incredibly different. You have your Octa with the 5-day power reserve in platinum. You have your automatic chronograph in rose gold. You have your manual wine resonance that is a very different, distinct piece to the brand. You have your sports model here, your Hawaii watch, and then now you have a watch that few have accessibility to. So in a different metal that isn't commercial. So
yeah, I'm sure a lot of your people know that FP. You take a look at where the dial is here, right? And I mean that's when it goes on your wrist. The shirt sleeve just pulls back so you can see it on the right side, right?
Yeah.
You take a look at other brands like Longuet, who it's actually easier with the crown here to put it on the other side. They take that opportunity, right?
Right.
Whereas FP doesn't care. He does what's right for the watch. So it might be much more difficult to manufacture and to make, but that's the way he does it. For this watch here, to put the moon phase on this side is far more complex than it would be to put it on the other side. But he doesn't take the path of least resistance.
That's true.
He does what's wild and wacky. So
right.
That's
similar to when he made his most recent perpetual, when he wanted it to be a truly instantaneous perpetual and snap in 1/16,000th of a second. It took him years to get that, but just because physics equal opposite reaction, he was having it snap back, and he's like, no, I'm going to get this done. He got his high res camera and he did it.
Yeah. He manufactures movements. What he doesn't do is he doesn't get components. Like you take a look at some manufacturers just slap components on, you end up with a hockey puck of a movement.
Like Longa, like we were talking about
exactly.
Yesterday.
Everything is integrated, and it's very cool the way that he makes watches.
So one of the many things I really like about you and your collecting is that you're open to all brands. So the Omega Casamigos, or here the Blancpain Bath Escape Chrono. So I know that you were just you called me up one day, we were talking, you're like, I saw that on your website, and that looks like a pretty good watch, like a pretty good value. What do you think? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Swatch Group makes very rugged, reliable watches, and we were saying if this was an AP, it would be what, three times the price or 2 times the price. It would be in mid-30s. Tell me a little bit about this watch and why you got it.
Well, I think it's a good size, and I think ceramic cases are very durable. They're lightweight. The Blancpain brand has got a lot of history. I don't like the fact that it's from one of the groups. I tend to stay away from the groups, or I definitely stay away from the groups. A watch like that, when you see that on Watchbox or Gobberg's site, and you can see at the pre-owned level the price that some other collector has obviously bought that watch and has taken the depreciation hit, and it's not about money all the time, but I think that's a cool piece in the fact that it's ceramic, it's a in-house movement, it's flyback chronograph. It's fairly good watch. Like, it's
very
a
legible,
good piece. And for the money, I can wear it for a while, I can enjoy it, and if I decide I don't like it, it's not going to cost me anything to get out of it. So it's just a fun watch, and I don't mind picking up pieces that I don't really know a brand and give them a try from time to time and see how
you
it
learn.
goes.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And so many people say, oh, I won't buy this Richemont brand product or Swatch Group product because those brands don't hold value. Well, what if you're buying it at a pre-owned level where the appreciation's already taken place? I mean, they make great watches, So I think that some people have a closed mind to buying certain brands, but it's like, pre-owned, you really can buy anything, Obviously these are expensive items and you want to make sure you're not going to get crushed if you ever have to sell it for whatever reason. But that would be something I would advise for people. So more recently, Dave, you've gotten into RM, gone on an RM kick. So that brand is an interesting phenomenon to me. So it's amazing. I mean, they're astronomically expensive for what they are intrinsically, yet they hold their value remarkably well. And I have this debate continually where it's like, have they branded themselves as the ultimate sports watch that's recognizable, difficult to counterfeit, and going to stand the course of time, or is eventually the cool factor going to wear off and it's a fad, and all of a sudden you don't have people standing behind the product to buy it at those high levels, and they depreciate, people get cold feet. I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting because they have a good thing going. They're a marketing machine. Their watches are extremely wearable. I mean, you tell me.
I don't know, but I mean, I've got lots of other watches, and I think it's kind of a natural progression to start looking at other brands, and I like the brand. I've owned a few of them, and I think that they're just kind of fun. They're super comfortable. They're very durable. They tell very good time. That watch that you're holding right there, I kind of bought that. It's kind of a cool watch. You can wear that with a suit, depending, it fits under the cuff really well. It's kind of their dress version. I think it's just a fun watch. In rose gold, I think it's a little unique with the white strap. Maybe I could put a different strap on, I know, but that's kind of a fun summertime piece to have. The watch is, that's a pretty complicated watch. You've got an annual calendar there, split chrono, or it's not a split chrono, it's a chrono. Annual calendar, it's got date function on it, and it's just a fun, solid piece. And I'm not afraid of the brand. I think the brand is doing a lot of the right things. The watch industry seems to be trending towards sport watches. People are living more casual lives, and the opportunities for people to wear this type of watch on a daily basis is not as comfortable to wear that as that when you're just kind of hanging out in shorts or whatever. And I don't know, I like the watches. They're fun.
Right. Well, Danny was saying to us yesterday, people aren't wearing suits like they used to. I think I read recently Goldman Sachs, it's now business casual. You can wear khakis. The suits are not as prevalent as they once were. So does that change the watch game in the sense that guys are going to be less inclined to wear precious metal strap watches or formal watches and go more to these beach detox versatile pieces? I think, if you look at the way the market is, that's definitely gone that way.
Well, this is kind of interesting. I mean, it's really, it's a automatic 3-hand time-only piece, right? And it's not like it's a very innovative, complication. It just tells time. But the way that they get to where it is, and the ability for this watch to resist shock and G-forces, and the materials that they use, and the weight of this thing, that's what I think is kind of cool. It's just something different and out there.
Right. So, and what's the sticker on that piece?
I think it's about 135 is the sticker on that.
But it's so in demand that it's brings more than that, right?
It's approaching 200.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that'll be very interesting to see where that brand goes long term. So tell me, for you here, you have all the biggest brands. Some of the nicest watches in the world. So, what's next, and where do you see your collection going from here?
I don't really know. I'm pretty satisfied with what I have right now. There's not really a lot that I'm chasing, to be honest with you. I've got a couple pieces here that I don't really wear that often, but it's nice to have, and that's part of the fun is to have pieces that you like, go in the safe and, you know, wind up a few pieces from time to time, make sure that the movements are keeping lubricated and that sort of thing. But they're just, I don't know, crazy little machines that I enjoy.
Right. Okay, cool. Well, one last loaded question before we go. Out of all these brands, if one of them is going to realistically do something, you know, moving forward, what would you want one of them to do? Like, what would be your ideal watch that's something that you could see, you know, is plausible?
Well, I'm a chronograph person, so I always like the chronographs. I don't know why it's the exactness or whatever it is that's about the complication, but I do enjoy the chronographs. The 5370 with the split chrono is probably the most comfortable Patek that I've ever worn. That's a great piece. I'm not a watch designer. I got to sit back and see what these guys come up with, because they always shock you. They come up with something like this. Like,
right.
Like who saw that coming?
That was cool. That was very out of the box, unpredictable.
Very cool.
So,
yeah.
Be interesting to see. That's for sure. But
and
Dave,
it's good to have Gobberg and George around to help me fuel
always.
the passion, and it's been a good relationship, and you guys have been great to me. So thank you.
No, you're the best, and you know, love the relationship we've built over the years, and you know, it's more of a friendship than a, you know, customer relationship. So that's what's really cool and special. But thank you so much for coming in. We've talked about doing this for a really long time, and it was a blast.
Thank you, George. Appreciate it.